So I told myself over the Thanksgiving break, I was going to fill out, I was going to update my resume, and then I was going to start filling out applications. And this all happened so fast. It was a whirlwind. Like that entire 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, it breezed by. But it was a lot that happened in between it. And quite frankly, I was overwhelmed during that time. So I updated my resume, updated my LinkedIn, and started getting the contacts from hiring managers. Started getting callbacks from places I applied for, and it all just happened so fast. It was really like in a span of 1 to 3 days. And so I started setting up interviews. The week after that, I had this was the overwhelming part. I had maybe 9 interviews scheduled in 1 week. On a Monday, I had 2 interviews. Tuesday, I had an interview. Wednesday, I had an interview. Thursday, I had 2 or 3 interviews. Friday, I had another interview. I didn't end up making it to Friday because I ended up accepting an offer on Thursday. But still, going through all those interviews and it was overwhelming for me. Back to the story though. Again, this is a condensed story, so I'm really going to focus on the one that I accepted. That was probably my first interview of not my first, it was one of the first interviews of the week. It was one of those Monday interviews. So this being my first interview of the week, this is my first time ever negotiating a salary. My previous career was in the military, and so there's no negotiating salaries in the military. What the military makes is public knowledge. You can Google it and find out. And so I got here at the entry level job. There was no negotiating. I got promoted this time last year as well, and I didn't negotiate that. I don't know if it was non-negotiable or not, but I didn't negotiate it. I was content with what was offered, and I took it. So this was my first time ever negotiating a salary, and even going through this process, it was frightening. The person that brought me into this industry wasn't on talking terms, so that was the person I would have leaned on during this process, because I wasn't exactly sure what to demand. I wasn't exactly sure, what was normal and things like that. And so I wanted to reach out to that person. I decided not to, for whatever reasons. If you know me personally, I'm stubborn. So I decided not to do it. But also it was great that I didn't, because what I went through in the fall set up what I'm going through now. I told myself in the fall that I was going to put myself in a lot of uncomfortable situations to demand more for myself. And that all started in the fall, and that is what this year is for me. 2022 is just make myself uncomfortable so that I can demand more for myself. And so I got a head start on this year 2 months early, or a month and a half earlier. So taking you all back through this process, this was one of the first interviews I had during this entire process. I loved the team, was welcoming the job, and it was something that I was just ready for. And so during this interview, they asked me my expected salary, and I froze up. I asked for 10,000 more than I was making at the time of that interview, and that job was being advertised for $15,000 more than what I asked for. So I asked for, I'm not obviously going to disclose any of the salaries. Y'all don't need to be in my business like that. But again, I asked for $10,000 more than I was making. And this was just me being nervous, not really knowing what to ask, not really knowing how to move through these negotiations and this process and things like that. And so when that happened, I immediately just was pissed at myself, because I knew I should have demanded more. But I was let's see how this plays out. So we went through the process. I interviewed a couple more times. I loved the team. The team loved me. I was welcomed in a position, and I got an offer. Now, this offer was $5,000 more than what I asked for. Some of you may hear this and say, oh, great. But you also have to take into account that I sold myself short, and I asked for $15,000 less than what was being advertised. So they basically gave me $5,000 just for my troubles. But this is part of the reason why this episode is about self-worth. I didn't know my worth, and so they tried to take advantage of me. And I knew that, but I had no one to blame in that instance but myself, because I sold myself short, and I was aware that I sold myself short. So we went through the process. They offered that, and this goes into the point to where I was telling you all about I didn't have anyone really to lean on, or I felt like I didn't have anyone really to lean on. So I reached out to one of my older cousins. I reached out to my mom and just told them my dilemma, hey, this is being advertised, but this is what I asked for, and they still gave me more. And essentially the consensus feedback I got from both of them was closed mouths don't get fed. If you know you're worth more and they're offering more, and you feel like you should be aligned with what they're offering, then ask for it. Like if you don't ask for it, then they're not gonna give it to you. And so I'm glad I got that feedback from them, because I knew that I should have been asking for more, but I just wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if I was being greedy or not. So that feedback kind of, put the fire in me and propelled me to really start assessing my worth. That's really the process of me assessing my worth in this instance, where that came from. So I went back to them, kind of took it on the chin, because it was like, it's no one's fault but mine that I sold myself short, but I still know I should be making more. So I went back to them and said, hey, I know I asked for this, and I'm appreciative that you all even gave me more, but I should be making more, or you should be offering more, because this is what's being offered. We went through, I think, like 3 rounds of negotiations. So they came back and they offered me $5,000 more than what they offered initially. I was initially going to ask for about $2,000 less than what was being advertised, because I was kind of like taking it on the chin that it was no one's fault that I messed up other than mine, which I shouldn't have done, because these big companies, they don't really care about their employees in the terms of finances. It's like, I'm trying to be humble, and I'm trying to be modest and take something on the chin because of my mistake, but they're trying to take advantage of me. And so that was my one mistake, and me not really knowing my worth, that I was trying to be humble and ask for a little bit more just because I messed up in the beginning. So I asked them for more, and they came back with $5,000 more than they initially offered. So now we're up $10,000 more than what I initially asked for, but still $5,000 less than what is being advertised. So once they came back with that, I was like, okay, so you obviously have more money to offer. You obviously understand that I messed up and that you tried to take advantage of that. So now we're into round 3. And so I told them, hey, this is being advertised. I would like to make something aligned with that. If you give me more, I'm grateful. But if you give me what's being advertised, then I'll take it. They tried to fight back on that. The initial response was, yes, it's being advertised, but this is being advertised for someone with X amount of years in this position, and you have 1 year less than that. This is when that bell clicked in my head, and I really started assessing my worth. And I vocalized that. That's one part. That's an important part in assessing your worth and applying it to whatever aspect of life that you're in, is being vocal about you knowing your worth. So once they came back with that feedback, my initial response was, yeah, you gave me such and such, and this has been advertised as this, but I've worked for one of the biggest agencies and one of the biggest clients in this industry. And because of that, you should be more aligned to pay me what you will offer someone with 1 more year experience, because they wouldn't come in, even if they had more years experience than I do, they wouldn't come in with the amount of experience that I have on the type of client, on the type of, from the type of agencies that I come from. So you can give this to somebody with more years, but they're not going to come with the experience that I've had. So this is me assessing my worth and vocalizing that. So we went through that. I relayed that back. Obviously, they came back and then they offered what was being advertised. Great. I'm happy now, even though I know I should have been out for more, because even the conversation I had with my cousin was that, usually when companies advertise a certain salary, they are able to pay more, but they put that out there just to see, for the fillers. And so, but at that point, we were so deep into it. And again, I didn't want to seem greedy. So I was content with that. But I knew that next time I was going to negotiate something, I was going to keep that in mind. So I'm fine with what they offered. I accept the offer and we move on. I go to my current employer and tell them, like, hey, I'm putting my 2 weeks basically. Hey, I'm getting ready to leave. I accepted the offer from X company, and immediately they fought to retain me. Now this is again realizing my worth, because I was ready to walk away and they're trying to keep me here. Initially, they matched the offer, and when they matched the offer, I told them, like, if you're just going to match it, no, they matched the offer and offered me a promotion as well. And I told them, like, if you're just going to match it, I'm still ready to leave, because at this point it's the same. And one of my main reasons why I'm trying to leave is because I just feel like I need something new and I'm trying to get out of a routine. I gave them that feedback, told them, the things I were against, and they came back and then they offered me more. So now I'm extremely grateful. Now I know that, For one, I'm appreciated. For two, I'm being recognized. This goes back into, assessing my worth. And for three, now I have options. Now I have this one company that I negotiated up $15,000 from what I initially offered, from what I initially asked for. And now I have this company that I'm used to who are offering me a promotion and a raise. And so now I'm appreciated. Now I feel good about myself, but now I have a decision to make. Obviously, I decided to stay with my company. It's the reason why I said it was unsuccessful. But that entire experience was eye-opening because I never really knew my worth until I went through this process. And I don't think had I had gone through this process, I really would have realized my worth. And so now moving forward, no matter how many years I stay in this industry, I know how to properly maneuver and operate within, this process because I know how to assess my worth. Another instance,